Nigeria has become a theater of absurdity where members of the political class go to the stage and play any script they like, thinking that all of us are fools. Now let us ask, where was rufai, who admitted in live television conversation, I think that was Arise TV, where he admitted that this new Naira policy was targeted against his own party, the APC, and their presidential candidate, who also admitted in Farawa Abeokuta that the new Naira policy will prevent him from using the old Naira that was brought to him in blue van to buy the vote of Nigerians, because they know that they have failed Nigerians, and they know that their only hope of winning this election is to buy our vote. That was why Tinubu admitted that in Farawa Abeokuta, where he said they seized the Naira, they made the fuel cars so that he will lose the election. Their hope and their only hope is to buy our votes with the old Naira, and that is why they are fighting. This coalition of civil society, we also had press conference in December where we alerted Nigerians of the ex parte order that sought to arrest Emefiele, and we said we know those who were against that script, and sooner or later those that were against this, that were behind the script surface themselves, as we have seen. Now let us ask, as members of the civil society organization and as Nigerians, rufai, where were you when the bandits attacked the railway and made away with Nigerians for more than 4 months in the bush? You never went to the Supreme Court. You never went to the Supreme Court to seek an ex parte order to compare the IG of police, to compare the army chiefs, to rescue the victims. Rufai, where were you? The governor of Zamfara State, where were you when bandits will collect money from farmers before they can go to farm and farm? Where were you? Now a policy that is targeted at not only ensuring free, credible election, but to also fight banditry because of the ransom that is being paid in cash to the bandits in the bush. Rufai, the very man that banditry has crippled his state for the past 8 years. Rufai is now the person fighting this same policy that's targeted at ending banditry. That means Rufai should be investigated. He has a role in this banditry. Governor Rufai of Kaduna State should be investigated. We, coalition of civil society organizations, are calling for his investigation. He must have a stake in this banditry business. He must have a stake in this banditry business, because he is not only fighting for Tinubu to buy vote, he's also fighting that the old Naira will remain in circulation so that bandits will continue to receive ransom. Rufai, what is your stake? Where were you for the past 8 years? Bandits crippled your state. You never went to Supreme Court to seek ex parte order. Now, a policy that seeks to nip bandits in the bud, you have gone to get an ex parte order where the Supreme Court lacks jurisdiction. Like my colleague said, the Supreme Court does not have jurisdiction only jurisdiction when there is dispute between state and federal government. What is in dispute is a policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Under the CBN Act, there is no dispute between the federal government and the 3 states that went to court. Therefore, the Supreme Court do not have jurisdiction. It is the Federal High Court that have jurisdiction under Section 251 of the 1999 Constitution to interpret the very sections of the CBN Act that empowers the CBN to redesign Naira and to determine whether the policy has been done in accordance with statutory provision. It is only the Federal High Court that can make that order. It is only the Federal High Court that is empowered by the Constitution to make that, to review it and make an order of injunction to either stop the CBN from continuing or allow the CBN from continuing. It's only the Federal High Court that have that jurisdiction. After the Federal High Court have interpreted that section of the CBN Act, you can now snowball from there to Court of Appeal to the Supreme Court. That is the only time the Supreme Court will have jurisdiction. The Supreme Court does not have original jurisdiction on this very matter. And the Supreme Court of Nigeria, please don't set our democracy on fire. The fire you set in Imo State is still burning. The fire you set in Imo State is still burning. Supreme Court of Nigeria, don't set our democracy on fire. If you allow politicians to have access to this old Naira note to buy our vote, you will set this country on fire. Supreme Court of Nigeria, don't set our democracy on fire. We are calling on the Chief Justice of Nigeria to probe this export application that was granted outside the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court of Nigeria. We will mobilize all lawyers in defense of democracy to observe this proceeding. They must not set this country on fire. The fire in Imo State is still raging. We call on all of us of democracy to defend this our democracy.
These are deserving of our support. And we have the overwhelming decision that the ethnic groups in Nigeria are to fully support both policies. And it's on that strength that I have been empowered to inform Nigerians that the Nigerian civil society community has passed a vote of confidence on the Naira redesign policy and the cash withdrawal limit policy. It is based on the foregoing that we alert the security agencies that the protests being planned to hold tomorrow, Thursday, 9th February 2023, guised as protests against scarcity of the new Naira, are indeed protests planned and organized to cause violence, destruction of public property, and disruption of public order and arson. Please quell the protests in the southwest, as it is part of the synchronized plot. We beg the security agencies to please, we are on our knees begging you to quell these protests that is going to happen tomorrow. Be at vigilance. Open your ears to the walls so that these plots will not come to fruition. The target is to reverse the policy, and where that fails, force a shift in the election date or lead to uprising that will cause the administration to come to an abrupt end. The opponents of the currency redesign and cash withdrawal limit policy deadline are pushing strongly at that for a shift of the February 2023 general election. We have credible intelligence that those behind the campaign for the shift in the deadline of the new currency redesign and cash withdrawal limits are now pushing that the 2023 general elections be shifted. This evil idea will throw Nigeria into a constitutional crisis and lead to the collapse of our constitutional democracy. Now these anarchists, realizing they cannot win the general election, are now looking for ways to destroy our democracy and undermine President Muhammad Buhari. These men who have benefited from the President Buhari now wants to destabilize and hurt our dear president. Not just our dear president, to hurt our democracy in their selfish bid of running errands for their new godfather in town. They have forgotten, and so soon at that, without President Buhari, some of them would not have legally or illegally made it to the office they now occupy. Now, President Buhari looks small in their eyes, and even without President Buhari's tenure expiring. These ungrateful power elements and betrayal characters are instigating people to destroy the legacies of our dear president and our hard-won democracy for the sake of their new master. If I may ask, what offense has the president committed by saying that he wants just, credible election? What has he done so wrong by saying, I will provide a level playing ground for all parties that are concerned in this election? Were these people not beneficiaries of credible election in 2015? So why crucify our president, who is committed to giving Nigeria enabling environment for free and fair election? We wish to state it clearly again. Nigerians will not, and I say, Nigerians will not accept any shift in the 2023 general elections. We also stand firmly to state that we will not stand in favor of any shift in the deadline for the currency redesign policy. Let these men use their time they are wasting in attacking President Buhari and his good policy to go and put their billions back to the bank, or even let them open. If they are unable to put them in the banks, we are urging them to open the cash warehouses containing these billions in Lagos, in Kano, in Imo State, in Zamfara, in Kogi. Let them open up the vaults and share those billions to our poor masses, since they are now lovers of the poor. If those who want cash limits removed and new currency redesign policy shifted love us so much and the suffering poor masses, let them use these few days before the end of the deadline to open their billion vans and share the money to the poor masses. We are not saying share it when the deadline has gone. We say share it now. Now. Instead of looking for how to use it during an election to corrupt the electoral process. Share the money to the masses, because our President Buhari and the Central Bank of Nigeria are not giving you any further deadline shifts. Share it because before it becomes a used tissue paper. Let us tell these short men in thought and height, stop hiring people to attack the banks. Stop using road transport workers to go naked inside banking halls, because you are not going to stampede President Buhari to open the national treasury for you, or to have dirty billions to buy votes and corrupt the same poor people you deliberately made poor. Why are states poor, if not mismanagement by these same governors who President Buhari had gone out of his way to help with bailouts? Where is the bailout fund from the CBN and the President Muhammadu Buhari? We ask, did these governors not loot it all? Lovers of the poor indeed, they call themselves. Where is the local government funds? If the local government money goes to the rural areas where it is meant for, will there be insecurity or poverty issues? Please, please and please, we beg you in the name of the Creator, stay clear of these policies meant for the good of the people. Do not dare our institutions and the powers of the president. Do you people think President Buhari can be pushed around? So you do not know that President Buhari's best retirement gift to himself is credible election? What makes you think that the president will destroy his future for your little rantings to please your new godfathers? We warn you again and again, do not dare our democracy and President Muhammadu Buhari. We also note that these unpatriotic citizens have no regards for the clear and positive order of the court. On this note, I want to bring to the notice of the Nigerian people, because it somehow coincided with this press briefing today, that the Supreme Court of Nigeria, maybe I should be the one breaking this news to you all, has just granted an ex parte application. Just few minutes ago, while we are in here for this conference. And we state most categorically that the Supreme Court does not have the locus. They don't have, sorry, not the locus, the jurisdiction to entertain that matter that has been presented before them by some state governors or some state attorney generals. We, the CSOs, are rejecting it. It is a plot to open the bank vaults to enable voter buyers and holders of illicit wealth to have cash to buy votes. We make due to ask the CJN, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, to hurriedly vacate the ex parte order in the overall interests of the Nigerian election. We have suffered a lot in the hands of these Supreme Court justices in undermining any efforts for credible election. Let me take us back a little bit. The Supreme Court voided the card reader which aided and increased official election results rigging. The Supreme Court declared a man who came fourth in an election as governor of a state. And that alone in itself helped to destroy Imo State and the sanctity of the ballot. The Supreme Court, this same Supreme Court, few days ago, declared two men who never participated in senatorial election as candidates in the person of Akpabio and Ahmed Lawan. And Nigerians are still in shock. And that helped to destroy the credibility of the primary processes. And today, again, the Supreme Court, without jurisdiction, in a matter that is not a dispute between the states and the federal government. If we will understand this very well, the Supreme Court, by our Constitution, the 1999 Constitution, as amended, have the right and the original jurisdiction to entertain matters from the states, between the states government and the federal government, when it is on issues of constitutional interpretation. Today, the Naira the redesign policy, it's a policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria, which was done by the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria with the backing of the President Muhammad Buhari. It's a policy of the federal government. So we are in issue. What is the issue for determination before the Supreme Court of Nigeria? Is there any conflict between the states and the federal government that the Supreme Court will have the guts to issue an ex parte order? And that is why I said, when I remember Nigeria, water run away my eyes, we will cry no more. The Supreme Court, we beg the CJN, must redeem itself by vacating this order, so that Nigerians will not see them as apex courts that is always against credible election. The Central Bank of Nigeria should, as a matter of fact, join the suits and file urgent preliminary objection on the jurisdiction ground, so that the apex courts can vacate this order, while Nigerians who have not deposited their old notes should avoid that, had I known, and go to do so immediately. This order is only designed to help politicians with sharing of old money during elections. We also call on the President, our dear President, to exercise his constitutional powers. We may suggest that he should make an urgent executive order to set the terminal date for the new currency to remain 10th February 2023, which he has the powers to do under the law, as the ex parte order made outside jurisdiction cannot stop the exercise of the executive powers of the President. Gentlemen of the press, we also beg the CJN to do not allow the Supreme Court to be used. These men, they have boasted. They boasted, we had it on credible intelligence, that upon filing this application, that they will get an order. To our utmost chagrin, we didn't know that the order will come so soon. What we heard from our information is that the order will be granted by Friday. But quite unfortunately, today as we are seated here, the order has been granted. Please, my Lord the CJN, if you do not know about these people, we may have to tell you now. There are people who do not like democracy and rule of law. There are people who do not cherish free and fair elections. They desperately need money because they must buy votes. Even if our democracy fails, they do not care about Nigerians. Please, the CJN, my honorable CJN, if our democracy fails because of this issue, Nigerian people will definitely hold you responsible. My Lord, we also do not need to remind you that the Supreme Court is a court of policy. The Nigerian people want this policy, but a few people want to thwart it for their own selfish and unpatriotic reasons. The legislature has made the new electoral act, which Nigerians agree is a departure from the old order. The executive has signed it into law, and the INEC has promised Nigerians a credible process by the use of beavers. My Lord, these men now want to use the judiciary, which is the last hope of the common man, against the same common man. They seek to discredit the sanctity of the Supreme Court. And that is your duty, my Lord, the CJN, to ensure that they fail and fail woefully. That being said, the Nigerian civil society lauds the FCT High Court for the courage and the erudition in granting the order and fixing a close return date, showing that the court does not want to sleep on this matter. If you remember, just yesterday, the FCT High Court granted an order saying that there should be no extension of the dates, and we are lauding that courage by the High Court of FCT. Gentlemen, it is the final resolution of the civil society that the February 10 deadline already set by the Apex Bank is irrevocable and irreversible. The impact of this is that we shall stand against every action that is capable of destabilizing our democracy or derailing the 2023 general elections by public incitement and stage-managed protests across the states of the Federation, disguising the protests with the name of civil society groups. We completely disassociate all the credible civil society groups in Nigeria from the planned protests and urge for swift action by security agencies in checkmating the anticipated breakdown of law and order. We came to this resolution after intense deliberations and extensive consultations with our members, particularly those in the finance and economic thematic areas. We feel the pains of Nigerians. We have been inconvenienced by this policy due to the sabotage of certain elements in the commercial banks. Many of them are being arrested. You must have heard about them by different security agencies. These pains, as unfortunate as they are, only is going to be temporary and will subsequently be outweighed by the long-term benefits of these policies. Nigerians should not allow looters and vote buyers the opportunity to take advantage of our pains, to open windows that will allow them to loot our common patrimony and compromise the sovereign will of the people. We hereby call on the central bank leadership to continue and also double its efforts at resolving these hitches so that Nigerians will not be ripped off before they are able to access their money. We urge the Apex Bank to set an example with any of the commercial banks found wanting in the sabotage of hoarding the new banknotes by imposing heavy financial fines on them, as it will surely be a deterrent to any other banks whose officials are planning the same thing. We further urge the Apex Bank to send out manuals of operations now stating severe sanctions to all the banks and financial institutions licensed and operating in Nigeria, so that they withdraw their services from any person or group seeking to use their platform to compromise elections. Following the 2015 general election, it became public that our commercial bank yielded its platform and services to a political party for the rigging of elections. It is not public knowledge if there are sanctions, but Nigerians will not want the repeat of that. But where it occurs, citizens would want to also hear of the heavy sanctions imposed. The Apex Bank should also demand of all the CEOs and managing directors of all banks who received allocations of the new notes to bring documents to prove how all these monies were disbursed, and in the units how they were disbursed. This call has become necessary with reports in the media showing that officials of banks have been arrested for hoarding of the new notes while denying availability. Thus, from our findings, the Central Bank of Nigeria has delivered on its mandates by disbursing adequate cash to the commercial banks, and it is the banks that have failed in their duties to their customers because certain officials of the banks resorted to doing business and trading the money, thereby causing artificial scarcity of the new bank notes. We thereby call on all commercial banks in Nigeria to step up and conduct internal inquiries on the activities of the officials who are engaging in sharp practices with these new banknotes. We want to reiterate the facts that the problem Nigerian people are facing is not CBN cash disbursement, but criminal hijack of the cash released to the banks. For example, in Yobe State alone, over 4 billion was released by CBN to banks in Yobe. Who hijacked it from the banks? The same elements making noise that they are fighting for us. The bank managers across all parts of the country should be arrested immediately for this economic sabotage. And this will expose how over 300 billion naira released to the banks was criminally delivered to their political friends and thereby causing cash scarcity. The banks failed Nigerians, and the few political class who work with the bank managers to take away this cash must be identified. How did the money develop wings? How come bank vaults are empty despite the billions given to them? Now they are crying for more so they can steal it and divert it to their friends in politics. If over 300 billion cash was in circulation across the counter, and ATM would there have been any rush and scarcity of the new notes? Not at all. Our pain is that the bank heads who committed these actions are still parading without being in detention, while the government and the CBN are suffering attacks for something they did not own or do or take a part in. Finally, fellow citizens, and gentlemen of the press, we as the apex organ of all civil society in Nigeria once again urge Nigerians to keep supporting these policies as they are for our ultimate good, and to resist being used by persons and groups whose goals are not noble, to capitalize on our temporary discomfort, to cause violence and destruction in the society. I want to thank you all, and many Nigerians, and may Nigeria remain blessed. Soli, soli, soli.